incorporate the information and technology in the teaching and learning aspects. Another important aspect is information and technology in the field as a creativity. Now, creativity comes by understanding the dimensions of learning and not by considering the structures, definitions, fixed objectives, and teaching. There are two different ways. One is a safe way wherein one can profoundly go into the anti-creative and unproductive way by teaching through a textbook, and another is wherein a journey without necessarily predicting the intention, objective, or outcome, where the journey is made together, where new things are discovered with the passage of time. Creativity is the dynamic process of life that enables to find ever new ways of learning together. A creative person is someone who finds ways of doing things in a different way and thereby finds interesting ways to have the language acquisition. Some examples of the creative classrooms where the students just break the traditional class approach are of blackboard, tables and chairs is the environment fully equipped with the modern technologies to inculcate and reinforce the language acquisitions among the present-day language learners. The parameters like collaboration, personalization, entrepreneurship, interaction are fully effectuated by these creative classrooms, thereby providing ample opportunities to students to grow. The ICT helps in developing the social cultural parameters, understanding through the cognitive processes in learners. The constructive learning environment offers a wide range of possibilities through the collaborative activities that embed learning in a meaningful context and through reflection on what has been learned through the conversation with other learners. Now, simply giving you an idea about the Bloom's taxonomy in learning, Bloom has rightly mentioned there are different steps while we learn a new language or a new concept. It starts with the remembrance. You remember something, then you move to the understanding phase, then you apply it, then you analyze it, then you evaluate it, and then finally you create something out of it. So these are the certain steps that you need to follow in any kind of learning, and even in the case of language learning, it does follow the same. So you remember a new concept, you start understanding it, you apply it in your daily life, you start analyzing it, if it is working or not, and then you evaluate, and finally you create it. And finally, I'll just speak about the learner autonomy. Learner autonomy is something wherein a learner becomes independent for his or her own learning, and that has become the buzzword for today. We see there are certain parameters like Moodle or MOOC, which are the open online courseware, which have become the real base for the learners to do learning on their own. So this autonomy is very important because they give a reason for learners to provide themselves with a level of motivation, and that is something that they can learn, continue to do so without the help of the teachers. But that doesn't mean that we should avoid teachers or we can do without teachers. They do form a very important part of our learning, but the technology does play an important role. And to conclude, I'll just simply wrap up by saying that in today's time, information technology is very important. It has become an inseparable part of our lives. Everyone is encircled by technology, so one should make the most of it in learning, whatever the kind of learning is. Since I'm into language fields, I promote my students, I encourage my students to involve themselves into technology while they're learning for a language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jayavardhan Singh Rathore. He is basically French teacher. मैं समझता हूँ कि फ्रेंच और इंग्लिश में बहुत सारी चीज़ें सिमिलर है. मैंने थोड़ा सा सीखा था फ्रेंच. इल ताबलो, टेबल को ताबलो बोलते हैं, पता नहीं. इजिट टेबल इसका फ्रेंच था, इल ताबलो. सो मैं समझता हूँ कि there is a relevance between English language and French language. So this research paper is very interesting regarding the relevance of information technology in foreign language, learning with reference to French language. So thank you very much. Next, please time पे थोड़ा ध्यान रखिएगा. Next is Ankita Banerjee, synthesizing knowledge management using crowd sourcing, analysis of social network of crowd. आप समय का ध्यान रखें प्लीज. फास्ट.
Professor there at IIT Ropar. So the topic of my presentation is synthesizing knowledge management using crowdsourcing. Then I have analyzed the social network using crowd. Knowledge is a treasure of facts, information and skills. which is acquired by human. In this information age, human is not only keen to attain knowledge, but he is also create, store, and share knowledge. When people collaborate, the resulting knowledge set represents the union of their individual knowledge set. So collaboration is in a way increasing the strength of knowledge set. These collaborative activities results in crowdsourcing. Earlier, the mass collaboration was in a small scale. When people in the past, when faced any problem, they used to discuss their problems with the colleagues or their friends. And if still their problem is not solved, then the problem remains unsolved. But now, the mass collaboration is different. Whenever we face any problem, we used to discuss their problems with the colleagues, that's okay. But we used to post our problems online in Quora.com or in social networking sites like Facebook. To some extent, you get your solutions in Facebook also. But in Quora.com, you just post one question and you get thousands of solutions, you get thousands of answers in Quora. So that is one of the major benefit of crowdsourcing, where you post one question and you find thousands of answers for your question. And you get the best answer too, and that too, you don't have to do anything. That comes up by the help of number of votes. With the maximum number of votes, that is the best answer. So you get the solution for your answer. Crowdsourcing is a term. Jeff Hovey and Mark Robinson, they were the editors of Wired magazine, and they were the researchers of MIT also. That's Massachusetts. And they introduced this term, and crowdsourcing, what they have suggested, that it is the practice of getting ideas and services from the large group of people and to solve a particular problem. And it is the process of organizing many people to solve a particular problem. That is crowdsourcing. The information flow. When I used to post a question and many people are answering, so that is crowd is making a social network in Quora or in Facebook or in any LinkedIn or anything. Crowdsourcing, basically communication and discussions of crowd creates a social network where ideas and information in the form of meme spreads like viral through these social networks. As the information spreads on web, the large network of hyperlink keeps growing in a scale-free fashion. I would like to explain these terms also, what is scale-free fashion and what is what methodology I have taken. I have taken social network analysis for the research objective. The first research objective of my paper is to understand how the information propagates through these complex social networks. Second is to predict the spreading pattern of information in web. Third, how the crowd is playing a major role in creating, managing, and exchanging information. Fourth is to predict the most popular pages of web. That is, whenever I have taken a network and I have analyzed the nodes which are getting infected, that was the most popular pages of web. I would like to explain something about social network analysis. It is the mapping and measuring of relationship and flows between people, groups, individuals, organizations, and other information entities. In short, it is used for the analysis of social network. I would like to explain about the practical application of social network analysis. It's very important because these applications have helped me for my research work. Businesses used social network analysis to analyze and improve the communication flow in the organization. They have also enhanced the interaction between their customers so as to grow the network of people in order to achieve success. Social networking sites like Facebook use the basic elements of social networks to identify and recommend potential friends based on friends of friends. We always add friends on the basis of friends of friends. If she is having mutual friend, then only the probability of attaching that new friend into our group increases. So that is the concept of social network analysis, and that is the concept of scale-free network that I'll come to it. Law enforcement agencies like use social network analysis to identify the criminal and terrorist network from the traces of communication that they collect, and they identify the key players in those networks. Civil society organizations use social network analysis to uncover the hidden connections between government bodies and businesses. Network operators like cable, mobile use social network analysis to optimize the structure and capacity of their network. Yes. Scale-free network, it is the connected graph for a network. I have analyzed the network on the basis of scale-free network. I have constructed this network with the help of Python programming. And what is scale-free network? It is constructed progressively by adding nodes to the existing network and by introducing nodes to the existing. Yes. With preferential attachment model. Now, preferential attachment model is, the more the connected node is, the probability of receiving new links increases more. Nodes with higher degree have the stronger ability to attract new links. I have implemented Barabasi-Albert algorithm in that network. It is used to generate a random scale-free network. The network begins with initial connected node of M0 nodes. It should be connected. Everyone uses M0 as 3 because it should be connected. New nodes are added to the network at a time. There are chances of each node is connected to existing nodes with a probability that is proportional to the number of links that the existing nodes already have. Means more the connected the node is, it will have the probability of getting attached to that node will increase. Formally, the probability is calculated by this formula, where Ki is the degree of node over the summation of degree of existing nodes. Network indicators of SNA is very important aspect in social network analysis because that is being calculated. Centrality is being calculated. I have calculated the closeness centrality, degree centrality, and withinness centrality for analyzing the network. The number of times a node acts as a bridge between two nodes, that is between a centrality. These nodes keep the network together and they have one of the best location in the network. That is being analyzed by the help of betweenness centrality. This is the formula of betweenness centrality. Then comes the degree centrality. It is useful for detecting the central nodes which is spreading the maximum information. This is the formula for calculating the degree centrality. D of AI is the degree of node AI, where S is the number of nodes. For synthesis of knowledge management, I have analyzed the network using scale-free network. I have taken 4 communities, and this is also a formula for calculating the total nodes in the network. Then I have analyzed how the nodes gets viral, virality of information. All the information doesn't get viral, only some of the information on web gets viral. So this is the part of my programming which I have done in Python. In this network, node 4 has degree 5 and node 10 nodes are having degree 2. 9 nodes are having degree 3. So on the basis of this analysis, I have come out with these results, with this degree distribution result, and node 2 and 7 have the highest degree centrality, so it means that node 2 and 7 are the most viral information on that network. And node 3 is the highest betweenness centrality, means it is coming in between of in the whole network. Then I have applied genetic algorithm to select the population, and out of that population, I have calculated the fitness function. It goes through crossover, like 110 and 010 gets crossed over to 010 and 110. After that, it goes through mutation form. After that, I got this result where initial graph was seen on the left and the final graph is seen on the right. where we can see that the red nodes are getting infected. So how nodes are getting infected and how nodes are getting viral. So meme spreads like a viral meme is the smallest unit or smallest unit of information in social network, and viral memes are towards the core than the periphery, towards the center than the periphery. It is based on social network analysis and it is based on that preferential attachment model because the core nodes are more attached. Thank you.
Any question, please? No? So, sir has given me basically the responsibility to talk about her work. No doubt Ankita has presented her work as per the theme which has been cited here for the conference. It was very interesting and the work has been done along with her guide in the best possible manner. Even she could present it here in a very nice manner. She used Python programming, which has become basically essential for the researchers nowadays, especially for analysis purpose. So the analysis covered Python programming, then some of the mathematical models, some of the statistical models, and with the help of those, she could achieve the better results here. So congratulations to you.
I'm Sarita Sharma from the Department of Fashion and Textile Technology, the IIS University. And my presentation topic is Interactive Clothing, Synergy Between Technology and Art. We all know about clothing, so I'm not going into more into that. The focus will be on interactive clothing. What is interactive clothing? As we all know, the material of our surroundings are being intellectualized. Technology today has allowed us to satisfy the same function with fewer components. These materials can interact, communicate, and sense. Miniaturization not only means the production of smaller components, but the elimination of components. What is interactive textiles actually? Interactive textiles are fibrous structures that are capable of sensing, actuating, generating or storing power and or communicating. They are able to sense electrical, thermal, chemical, magnetic or other stimuli from the environment and adapt or respond to them using functionalities integrated into the textile structure. Now, here we have types of interactive textiles. Basically, there are two types of textile. The one is the smart cloths with devices in pockets or in fabrics such as microcomputers, flexible TV screen, microcellular phones, solar cells, energy recovery systems, and flexible keyboards. These devices are used mainly for communication, displaying colors, pictures, indicators, indication of moods, messages, and other devices like GPS. And other category of interactive textiles are the smart cloths with sensor. These are close to or in contact with the skin, which are more used for body sensing and monitoring. The sensors are enclosed in the layers of fabric or it is the fabric itself. Now, composition of interactive textile, how they are made. They have first of all smart materials. When I am saying smart material which can interact. The first one is advanced fibers, conductive inks, inherently conductive polymers, optical fibers, organic semiconductor, shape memory materials, and chromic materials made all these smart materials. Apart from this, we have sensors, networking and communication, interconnections, and power supply to make any interactive textile. Now, smart material and its classification. Smart material is a generic term for material that in some way reacts to its environment. As we are having a short time, so I am just skipping the lesser things. They are passive, active, smart, and very smart material depend on their functions. Now, advanced fiber means the electrically conductive metallic yarns like silver, stainless steel, carbon fibers, and other yarns containing conductive fibers like stainless steel mixed with natural synthetic fibers are known as advanced fibers. Now fibers filled with conductive material like carbon or metallic particles can be advanced fibers, fibers coated with conductive polymers, or fibers spun with thin metallic or plastic conductive threads. Now conductive inks, we all know a layout can be screen printed using conductive inks to add conductivity to specific areas of a garment. Next is inherently conductive polymers. Inherently conductive polymers have both sensing and actuation properties. The electrical conductivity of these polymers is known to be caused by their conjuncted for a double bond chain structure. Some commonly have ICPs included polyacetylene, polypropylene and polyaniline, etc. Now next, optical fiber, we all know organic semiconductors have the electrical properties of semiconductors and mechanical properties of plastics. They are good candidates for developing electronic and optoelectronic flexible components. Next, shape memory materials. SMM can deform from the current shape to previous set shapes, usually due to the actions of heat. In garment, the scale is very smaller. When these SMMs are activated at a certain activation temperature, the air gaps between close layers of clothing are increased. Next material is chromic material. We all know what is chromic material. Now components of interactive materials apart from these smart materials are sensors, actuators and controlling units. Now types of sensors I am just mentioning here. We have blood pressure measuring sensors, body temperature measuring sensors, pulse rate measuring sensors and networking and communication as earlier I have mentioned. Apart from this interconnection we need for making any interactive textile. Now power supply is there. Application of interactive textile. This is the part which I would like to share. In medical field, attaching sensor to the body can cause skin problems. An alternate solution is textile structure electrodes, which are ECG sensors embedded inside garments such as fiber, yarn and fabric structures. These textile structures, electrodes possibly woven into cloths, are more comfortable and suitable for long-term monitoring. It's possible to acquire a host of signals, ECG, EMG, respiration signals, skin conductivity, index of movement. To this purpose fabric, piezo-resistant sensors, fabric electrodes and textile connections are integrated. Now telemedicine is the part of interactive textile which is used in medicines. This is how they work. Now next is, these are some types of jackets or you can say smart shirts which are used for medical purpose. Life vests, these are basically used for various physiochemical measuring. Life jackets and military defense, we can see there are various type of components which are used in a particular jacket, headgear or somewhere. Now fashion and entertainment. Sportswear, we have these type of jackets, shoes which can monitor your various data like speed, your heart rate, etc. Transport and automotive use. Under Armour, these are various projects which are run by various agencies. This is Under Armour E39 compression shirt, a real kit. It is from Adidas, a shoe which have GPS and other components to monitor your speed and other things. This is another project which is for fighting fire. Jacket or outer garment market. It is not very much important. Like we can decide the market according to their applications. And these are market players, means these are the companies which are producing these interactive textiles. Now challenges. The major challenges is the integration of technology and functionalities, system and several application, example, health, well-being, protection and disaster management. The commercialization of this technology is brutal. The issue is that while it's relatively easy to weave or knit a textile with conductive material, now future developments. There are various areas which we can use for interactive textile. Thank you so much.
Any question, please? Okay, so I would like to sum up that this lecture was really quite new in the sense that most of the students or participants who are sitting here, they are very well aware of the textile from the point of view of texture, which we learn in image processing, texture analysis. But it was a very new topic for the computer science fraternity to know about the interactive textile technology. And many of the devices have already arrived in India also, and people are making use of it. So I would like to say that time is not too far to enjoy this technology in India also. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ahilani going to talk about network society challenges and trends.
Namaskar to one and all present here. I think the network society we all are living in doesn't need much introduction because we all have smartphones in one hand, laptop in another, iPad in our pocket. I think it is very much understood. Just to have a beginning of the network society, it is rational, it is based on science and technology, and the human experience is mostly globalized with local social structure. We all are living in virtual communities age. That means we have no constraints of space and time. We can contact anyone, anywhere, anytime with the help of technology we have in our hands. We have already entered into the network society, but it was last year only that I realized that we have entered the network society when one morning I woke up and found a message in my mobile, and it was a message from my maid, and she has written, "I'm not coming today." And it was really an unpleasant, or you can say a pleasant surprise for me that we have entered into the age of network society. My paper, this is just the facts and figures just to point out that we have 110 million social network users, but the point is 84% of them are from the urban background. 87.1% people use social networks through their smartphones. Male is to female ratio is 6:40. Age group which uses the most is 15 to 24. That means the adolescents and the youth. And Facebook is the most popular, which is followed by Twitter and LinkedIn. My study is focused on Jaipur city itself, and I have taken 5 schools for this, and the sample size was 260. Just to sum up my study, it is a primary study. These are the threats and challenges which are faced by the adolescents. Since I think most of the students who are sitting here are into the age of adolescence or have just moved out, these are some facts. 50 to 50.515 have negative effect on academic performance. That means they do not have an interest in reading and writing. They just go to the net and copy. They have poor communication skills. That means definitely an effect on the future job prospects. Another threat is on the physical exercise. Instead of going out and have a physical play outside, we feel to have a play on the laptops. This is what we are giving to the present generation. This has led to the development of poor immunity and poor health. Another thing is that the adolescents are becoming less interactive with their family. That means they are becoming self-centered and individualistic. They are not interested to go out and attend any functions as such with their parents or friends. Then they have also some negative effect on their personality. Looking at the psychological side, adolescents have dual personalities. That is quite different online and offline, and it has also led to the development of online addiction. More or less, we are always checking the messages or likes, dislikes, whatever they are getting. Adolescents also suffer from sleeping problems like irritability, depression is also common. It has also given rise to poor personality. Another threat which was seen in my study is that 60% post personal information and photographs on the social networks without getting any awareness on what can be the disastrous effect of this. Then 47.93 also accept strangers as their friends. So all these things make them more vulnerable to online risk. 40.95% also like to create fake profiles in someone else's name. 51.1% also said that they have also tried to crack passwords. Then 33% also tried to send viruses to other mails. And piracy is very common. 65.07% downloaded illegal music, videos, games online. In another question, 53.96% also said that they have suffered from cyberbullying. That means they have been abused by someone, or they have been 45.0% also said that they suffered from cyber defamation, and some also suffered from identity theft. That means their names and their personal informations were theft and another names were put up. Finally, I must like to conclude my paper by saying that since two professors have already put forward their point that sanctions are not defined and implemented in cyberspace. That's why there has been an increase in cybercrime. Not only sanctions, but we as adolescents, we as youth, we as people are not aware of the our sanctity, our privacy, what needs to be displayed on the net, what needs to not to be displayed on the net. We all are very much into the technology, but we are not aware of its misuse. Anybody can abuse, misuse, most of the every day we find in newspaper a case of cybercrime. So it is like the technology is being misused. Since you all are belonging to the fraternity of IT, you all are in the favor of using technology and IT. But since my paper was posing the negative aspects of IT, I'll like to say sorry, but still it is a fact that we should pose and display all these things, and we should be aware of all these things. What can be done is like we can have an active participation of parents, since most of the parents are not aware of what their children are doing online. Adolescents awareness should be there on privacy and safety, and there we as such as citizens need to have a balance between real and virtual life. We should not have a dual identity. We should use technology, but to a limit. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yes, as well as all my friends there. My topic is reference for the Creative Commons license for the open sourceware in higher education. Now I'm a little bit going away, like up till now it has been that there shouldn't be a plagiarism, and I am just going for it. Like here it is, I want to say, like Professor B.K. Pasi, who is one of the member of UNESCO also, and he asked me to make a PowerPoint, and I did make it. I put the animation and whatever way I could do it, and he took it. And but when the presentation, I know that he did not actually presented it. And then I realized he was actually motivating me. So I wanted to imitate him and do next time it is whenever he presented a slide, I wanted to imitate him. And that is the way imitation can be done for a good cause. Here it is, so the sociologist, he has given today's society what it wants. It wants universalism, commercialism, communism, disinterestedness, and organized skepticism. That is what today's society is about. And that means that sharing of knowledge and resources is very much needed today. And it is a practice today in today's society. and it is rationally it should be used, and it can be an advantageous for the teachers as well as the learners, and it can be borrowed as well as adapted. Now here my paper, the objective is about to know about the open sourceware, and it is to highlight that how it is used in the higher education, and it is what is the role and significance of Creative Commons that makes me reverence it. Now here it is, maybe you people must be knowing it, but as far as I know that the M.Tech students are not there, therefore it is I'm going with it, that it is the Eric Raymond who had taken up in 1989, and it had come over there first as an open sourceware, and later on it came up as open courseware, and that is used in distance education. That is those students who are not in the mainstream and those who are away from the schools and they are studying. So they are using this, as well as therefore it is the teacher's job to make use of it and provide all the learning materials to them. Now it was a consortium that has been developed. It was developed actually at 2007, which had come up. Now when the research came up over here, it was found that the material which was used, which was those materials which had no cost, resources which was available anytime, and it had a topic which was of interest and for personal knowledge or enjoyment, and just the barriers were just the opposite, whichever did not have a certificate or which was of no interest, which lacked professional support, that was not taken up. Now based on this research, this license came up. Okay, so now this Creative Commons license, when it comes, it means that anyone can take up any of the materials and it can be recreated. Again, it is the same thing that you can recreate, but the soul should not go away. That is the motto. And although there was a limitation, but it was always seen over here that some right reserved. So like there are some of the materials you get it, which does say that you can copy it, but still the right is there with the creator. So it remains over there. So next this is the way how you will find over there where the material you can access it, that would be there, and you could see it, which can be used. Now here it is, but this in India it came at 2007, and 2008 it was launched, but it was not taken up. It was recently only in 2013 when the Minister of Human Development, that Tharoor and as well as Ravi who brought it into this. But still it is in distance education, it is over here you can see of the resources which in India it is IGNOU, NCERT, NAPTEL, who has taken up this repository is there from where the students can access their learning, as well as the teacher, they can upload the material. And the materials which are uploaded, which is mostly from Moodle, which has been talked up with by Dr. Rathore, and as well as some of the even the e-library, they too have taken up the repository to take it up. So I won't go into detail just now. And over here it is that Creative Commons attribution share alike, they give all these things, so anyone can take it and the students can have a benefit of downloading it. And over here it is, I would like to conclude by saying that although there are a lot of benefits, we can see it, but still it is the founder Lawrence, he is still against it, that it is many times it is the materials they are manipulated. Now, in India, where manipulation is not taken in a positive sense, it is taken in a negative sense. But at the same time, we always say that we should always imitate our model. The two ways people over here, they have the perceptions or their viewpoints. So it means that we have to think about that. We have to teach our students about plagiarism, as well as we have to teach them that when you take anyone's materials, you have to give a credit for it. And in the last, I would say that we need to take a step where we should have a learning beyond the classroom. Thank you.
Any question? Okay, thank you, Vinita ji. You have delivered a very sensible and very good lecture to the participants. Thank you very much.
I thank you all for this valuable session. With this, we come to an end of technical session 3.
Also, she has contributed in the areas of theoretical computing, image processing, pattern recognition, and compilers. She has to her credit more than 150 research papers. Maya Ingle is working in the Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, as a professor and senior system analyst, chair assessment and research committee in the School of CS and IT. I request Ms. Ruchi Nanda, Additional Head, Department of CS and IT, the IIS University, to present the floral greetings to Dr. O.P. Rishi. I now request Ms. Astha Pari.
Having two very interesting kind of lectures by Dr. O.P. Rishi and Mr. Vipin Jain. Let me introduce with Dr. O.P. Rishi. He has qualification as PhD Computer Science, MTech Computer Science, and presently working as Associate Professor in Department of Computer Science and Informatics, University of Kota. His research achievements include the interests from AI applications, case-based reasoning, intelligent tutoring systems, intelligent systems, cloud computing, and social computing. He has more than 30 years of experience as Associate Professor in Central University of Rajasthan, as Assistant Professor in BIT Mehsana, as Assistant Professor at Banasthali University, Jaipur. He has published over 35 research papers in national and international conferences. And the most importantly, he has authored 8 textbooks for UG compulsory paper and PG DAC. He is member and senior member in various professional bodies including IEEE and CSI, member in various committees and conferences at national and international level. He has served as PC member, conference chairperson, and delivered more than 30 talks. So, let me invite Dr. O.P. Rishi ji with the words. सुनिए सब लोग अच्छे से. मैं जो वर्ड्स बोलने वाली हूँ पहले उसे सुनिए, बाद में तालियां. अभी मुझे पता चला कि सर ने एक मोनोग्राफ इमोशन इंटेलिजेंस पे रिसीव किया है, इनका निकला है. इसके लिए मैं एक शेर सुनाना चाहूँगी. सुनना चाहोगे आप लोग सब? सबको पता है वो। नन्ही चींटी जब दाना लेकर चलती है, नन्ही चींटी जब दाना लेकर चलती है, चढ़ती दीवारों पर 100 बार फिसलती है। नन्ही चींटी जब दाना लेकर चलती है, चढ़ती दीवारों पर 100 बार फिसलती है। मन का विश्वास रगों में साहस भरता है। चढ़कर गिरना, गिरकर चढ़ना उसे कभी ना अखरता है। आखिर उसकी मेहनत कभी बेकार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती। ऐसे डॉक्टर ओपी ऋषि जी को हम यहाँ उनके लेक्चर के लिए आमंत्रित करना चाहेंगे।
Thank you, ma'am, for nicely introduce me. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event who inviting me for this lecture as well as for judging all the papers. From yesterday to today, I have listened all the paper very carefully, asked so many questions to the candidates. Might be possible few candidates irritated with my questions. So I am sorry for that. But I request you, you may ask all the questions which you have within your mind with my topic. This is not my domain expertise, but this is my area of interest. But before proceeding, I would like to request one thing, which poem shared by ma'am. This is available on my FB, and I am very much inspired with this poem. I always keep all the words with my hearts, and just because of this is my inspiration. And I request to all of you, you always keep this poem with you. So within this topic, data engineering, you almost all aware what is data engineering. Are you aware? Anybody? You all heard about software engineering, computer engineering, hardware, etc., etc. Had ever you heard about data engineering? Very old term. It comes in 80s, but no significant work done till date on this. But the data engineering is a multidisciplinary area, people working on these different disciplines within this. So people treating it as a new field. So before proceeding this, I would like to discuss certain things. Please proceed. Sorry, I am here. So if I would like to converse with all these things, if I'm talking about the technology, I'm talking about the trends of a computer, then you are aware every year the performance of computer increases and just doubles within every 18 months. If you remember, what is the processor speed of last 18 months and now, what is that? The differences are around doubled. Similarly, per decade that increase 100 times. You are aware, earlier we have a 486, 586, Pentium, later on we have a gigahertz processors. Now, we can consider all the progresses can be measured in that whatever progresses we have in the last 18 months or 10 months, that is, we have a summation of all these progresses for the current scenario. And similarly for not only for processing, this is for a storage also, this is for a bandwidth also, this is for all networking equipments also. So if we consider, we can have a 3 phases, that is 1890 to 1945, and at that moment we have a mechanical village for a computation purpose. I hope at the beginning of the history of computer you are aware about that, and that is around within 7 years that is doubled. But in the next phase of this era, that is what, 1945 to 85, at that moment we have a tubes and transistors for a computation purpose within the architecture of a computer, and that is around 2 to 3 years that is doubled. And 85 to 2014 we have a microprocessor based computation, and within 1 year the processing speeds and the computation is just double, means the speed of that is double. So this is the graph indicates how we are moving towards a fastly growth of this phases. Now if we are talking about the storage capacity, initially $1,000 we invest for a 1 terabytes and $100 to $70 for a terabyte at the end of the 2015. This is there. According to Moore's law, the significant growth is what, 50.70, and revenue we invested for that is a 7.47, but in the growth of a terabytes that is a 112. So you can think about that how we fastly grow for the technology wise, for a storage capacity wise. For 3 or 4 or 5 year backs, we have data storage in the MBs and there are GBs. Now we have in a TBs, and we have all the devices related to that. Now this is what a magnetic storage. The similar progress is there in terms of a capacity, in terms of a bandwidth, in terms of access time, and our density limits means earlier we use a capacity of CD, DVD and optical disc like that. So again this particular graph indicates how fastly we are growing in the things. Similarly for a RAM, for a disk, these are the different figures which I have taken from the research papers. This is the architecture, and we are talking in these days about the clouds. So the computation, the processing about the cloud in different clusters. Right now we use a clusters for a computational purpose. For a parallel processing we have a different clusters. Means again earlier we have a single processor with the limited capacity, but now we have a cluster of a systems or cluster of a processors for a computation purpose. Fine. Now we are talking about the bandwidth for the network. Every university, every college is connected with the NMEICT, and every college is having a 1 Gbps connectivity for receiving data, for uploading, and for a purpose of that networking. So earlier we have a simple modem based connections with the limited capacity of this data transfer, but in the 2 days we have a 40 Gbps for a per channel, 12 channel per fiber, that means around 500 Gbps, and 20 fibers we have, that is around 16 Tbps. You can imagine the speed of the network, speed of data transmission, speed of the processing which you transmit data over the network. So we are just moving very fastly, and the consequences of all these things means definitely we are growing. But what are the consequences of all these drastic changes within all these things? What is that? The complexity. Complexity is the one thing, speed is the another thing. And for that purpose, we have a voluminous data, lot of data. For that purpose, we require a lot of functions, lot of parameters, lot of techniques, lot of methods, lot of principles to compute them. For a computation purpose, we require certain mathematical formula, certain statistical tools, or certain computational tools, certain algorithms, just because of this voluminous data. As volume is increased, complexity is increased. To solve the complexity, to resolve this problem, we need a different algorithms. You are aware what is the algorithm? The step by step solving the problem. Okay, so for that purpose we have some imprecise data. Maybe they are random, they are fuzzy, a different kind of data is there. Maybe we have a data in a sparse matrix, maybe they are systems are maybe a linear, or maybe they are complex systems. And in terms of if we talk about the methodology, For that purpose, we have a different kind of learning mechanism, maybe a supervised, unsupervised, or maybe different things. Similarly, for a strategy, exactly for a computation purpose, for a processing of our data, for a processing of our information, for processing of knowledge. I'm speaking in that three different stages. Initially, we have a data. These are raw facts. If we process it and we find a useful information, that is our information. And information, when we learn or a system learns, that becomes a knowledge. So this is the steps. So we have a voluminous of data. Thereafter we have a information, means there are certain relationship between the data, and thereafter the system learns this information, that becomes a knowledge. So for a knowledge processing, we require a certain learning technology. First of all, system learns that, system acquire the knowledge, system process it, system store it, and thereafter keep it for further use. So that is what? Information becomes a knowledge, and knowledge need to be processed for a further use. Okay, so for that purpose we require certain strategies. For example, I took one AI technique, that is a case-based reasoning. For example, within a class I want to find out, I want to replace teacher with the intelligent systems. I took this example everywhere just because of this is my area of interest. So let us suppose I want to replace teacher with the intelligent system and that want to teach a certain topics. For that purpose, system first of all identify the students' learning capabilities. Within the class, there are three categories of students: average, a medium, and a student with a very good performance. So according to them, that system provide the learning or teaching. Teacher almost knows about the learning according to the behavior of students, but system can't do this. For that purpose, we have to teach the system how to first judge the students' category, thereafter teach the particular topic in terms of a content. So for that purpose, we require a strategy. Fine. So case-based reasoning is an appropriate technique. For a lot of technique, knowledge-based purpose, we require a different kind of strategies, relating neural network or fuzzy or genetic, etc. All these are the computational techniques, soft computing techniques, which is a particular area. And technology, within that we have computer powers and database and web technology. Within the web technology, there are a lot of things, Internet of Things, you are aware, and everything of things. There is the two latest technology within this era. So, and for purpose, there is another area is imaging. That means these are the different areas which affected with this kind of ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी जैसे जैसे आपकी बढ़ रही है उसी के साथ साथ इन सब चीजों पे इफेक्ट आने वाला हमारी जो स्ट्रेटजी है कंप्यूटेशनल स्ट्रेटजी है दैट विल चेंज और लर्निंग दैट विल अगेन चेंज and for that purpose we required appropriate optimization, appropriate computation, appropriate calculation tactics, and that is provided by whom? That is provided by data engineering. Data engineering not a single area. Data engineering is all, as I said earlier, this is a multidisciplinary area. And after this problem, what is our goal? The goal is use to available data or generate more data and thereby understand the process being investigated. For that data, exactly what process we need to use and in which manner and which function is appropriate for that. Fine. And basically, you may have this kind of terms, you already heard about that, means a data mining. Everyone aware data mining means digging a data from the database a useful information. Means you have a voluminous data in terms of a database and you want to find out the particular information as per your interest. So what is that? That's the data mining. Knowledge discovery from the knowledge base. Appropriate knowledge about a particular object. Knowledge discovery. Knowledge management. Exploratory data analysis, intelligent data analysis, and so many things. So these are the goals which exactly we want to find out or we want to trace from the database or from the technology. So for this, all these purposes, for discovering of data, for discovering of knowledge, for a data mining purpose, we require what? We require a unified framework. अगर हमको कुछ भी processing करनी है तो first of all what we need? We need a framework. Framework for what? For prediction, for a control, for a prioritization, means exactly what priorities we require for with that particular framework. And the conceptual framework is another thing. This is maybe that we have a decision tree or maybe we have a certain graphs. Okay. Then after we have a certain matching with the data models, that is a